Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the D Sweet Nation podcast. Today is 9/11, September 11th, 2021, 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks in New York City. As always, I'm Dan Hutchinson.
I'm Ray Dawg.
And today I'm Randall W. Scott III. Good to be here, man. Thanks for having me, you guys.
We have an Emmy Award winner here. I know Randy isn't modest, but he's an Emmy Award winner. Been at Davsion High School for, about 20 years now?
This is my 20th year there, yep.
DTV studio. And tell us a little bit about yourself, Randy.
Grew up on the east side with me and Ray here in Flint, known him for a very long time, and he's one of the best guys in the world, by the way, in case you didn't know.
Told you.
Did that and got into television at a young age, worked the TV news circuit for a long time, and then eventually ended up teaching television to students at a high school and at Davison there, and that's been an awesome experience the whole time. But yeah.
How have you been doing for like the last year and a half, like through the pandemic?
Yeah, it's been different. It's been different, man. Scary at times and boring at times, and just different. Even now, today, this week, we started the school year off. Davison starts a little earlier, so we started the school off and no mask. It felt like normal for a minute, and then now everyone's back in masks, and they're quarantining kids again. And boy, it's like, man, it's just over, and we're repeating everything from last year. It's feeling that way.
One more question before we get into our episode today. Were you inside the school a couple of days ago when that trouble was happening up there?
Yeah.
Did anybody get hurt or anything?
No, it was a total false call, but It was very scary at the moment. The administrators did all the right stuff, man. The report of a gun in the school, you have to do certain things. If you don't do those things and somebody gets shot, you're in trouble. Sure. This time the report was false. It was an erroneous report. It wasn't malicious. Somebody thought they saw a gun, And then boom, total lockdown. This is what happened, Ray. I'll just tell you this, and I don't know how much of this stuff got out, but at one point, we're locked down in our class. A police officer comes in. He's got the AR-15. He's got the assault rifle. He comes in. Put your hands up. He wasn't pointing the gun at us, but he was looking for a suspect. So he came in, and we're like, whoa! Everybody in the class puts their hands up. He's scouting, looking around, and he goes in the next room and he finds the kid he was looking for. And it was all false. You know what I mean? It was a precaution because somebody thought they had saw something, and it turns out it was absolutely nothing. But it was full, just to see all the stuff we practiced and all the drills and the lockdowns in case it was real, actually going to a place, it was different. And it was different. But everybody was safe, and I believe we learned a lot from that, just being in that experience,
Yeah. Now, today's episode, Dan came up with the 9/11 concept on the 20th anniversary, which was a great idea. And today we're just going to kind of, each of the three of us are going to share our stories and talk about where we were and just circumstances on that day of September 11th, 2001. Now, since my story probably won't be as exciting as your guys', okay? I guess I'll go first so we could just kind of get it out of the way. Because you're a newsman back then, you were, in the Army, so that's obviously going to be very intriguing.
Yeah, and we are going to touch on some sports too. After we tell our stories, we're going to go into some of the key sporting events that happened after the events of 9/11 and how sports helped to kind of take everybody's mind off what happened and all the unity, and not only across the country but in the city of New York and all those key games, and how sports kind of kick back off after the events of 9/11 as well.
Yes. So, okay. Now, my particular situation on that day, I was, 3 days shy of my 24th birthday, because my birthday's on the 14th. And I was working for Pinkerton Security at the time. Do you remember Pinkerton?
Absolutely.
They've changed their name so many times, I don't even know what their name is anymore. I know they still have a security system. But anyways,
they busted my dad in the shops many times.
I was working at Flint Engine South on Van Slyke and Bristol. And what I remember about that night or morning, because I was a third shift worker at the time. I worked from midnight to 8. And then we had a lady that called in, as people did every day for Pinkerton. They call in every day. So I stayed over until noon, which eventually I stayed until 4 in the afternoon. I worked a double shift, basically. One thing I remember, it was super hot that day. In Flint, it was at least. It was hot as hell that day. And I was working at the truck gate at the time, and I had heard about the first plane hitting. Didn't really give that much thought. Just thought it was an accident. And then when, I can't remember. I think it was Princess Jones was her name, Central girl. She was an officer too. And she's the one that relayed the message that a second plane had hit. Okay, now what we had to do at the plant as security officers, this is where it starts to get a little hairy here. I remember that day, and then we had to do this for like another month. But the rest of that day, so this would have been somewhere between like 9:30 and 10 o'clock in the morning. Every truck that came in, we not only had to do our normal inspections of the truck, we had to like get under, like mechanics, okay? We had to look in the cab, look inside the glove box. We had to go under their truck, like crawl under there, look for things. And we had to go in the back of their trailers and look for, we had to like just interrogate everybody because that's what we were told to do. And everybody that walked out of the plant, whether they're going to lunch, going to their car real quick or, quick smoke break, whatever, we had to frisk and check everybody's purse, wallet. We even had a situation where there was a whole bunch of workers that were outside all at the same time, and we weren't allowed to let them back in right yet. There was me, and I think there was like 4 or 5 of us. And everybody was, it was hot. Everybody was confused, didn't know what was going on. Because let me see, after the 4th plane dropped in Pennsylvania, we didn't know what was going to happen in Flint. Was something going to happen in Flint, whatever, with all these plants here? But we had a whole bunch of people outside. They were cussing and getting ornery, and a couple people threatened us. And there was, like 100, 150 people out there. And it looked like they were going to ambush us, but thank God they didn't. But we basically had to just like harass people the rest of the day, which we didn't want to do. But our site coordinator told us, nobody gets in. You check everybody. You look under, do whatever, look in their car. We had to look in cars in the parking lot. It was just a hectic day. That's how my day went. And then I got home. I didn't really process the 9/11 stuff until the day after because I was so tired. I wanted to get that second shift over with. And it was a madhouse there. Truck and bus, everywhere right there on Van Slyke. It was just, it sounded like Tiger Stadium, like a roar of a stadium, like people outside and hollering. And that's how my day went as a security guard. We had to check everybody's trucks, vehicles, pat them down, look in their purses. If they came back in, if they stepped out for 5 seconds, we had to do that process all over again. Yeah. And that's what was pissing people off.
So that morning when you're at work, were you able to watch the news at all? Were you in front of any kind of TVs? Were you listening to the radio? Like, were you able to be present in the news broadcasts as this stuff was going on?
Where I was at the particular time when I heard about the planes hitting, the second plane in particular, I was inside of the truck gate. Now, this was 20 years ago. It's not like now because I was at that plant doing business like 2 months ago. And inside that truck plant, it looks like a studio.
Yeah.
They got TVs in there, like screens like this in there, and they got to do all this in there. When I was working there, it was just a phone and our handheld games we played with. No, there was nothing in there. I couldn't watch it on the TV. But Princess, who I talked about earlier, we had her on the phone the whole time. Me and my buddy, it was Leonard Gooseby. We were just listening to her kind of give us the play-by-play because she was in the console area and everybody else was watching on the TV. We just happened to be at a spot where there wasn't a TV. So we had to listen to her, and then she's the one live when the Capitol building was hit. And then when they heard the plane went down in Pennsylvania, she was giving us play-by-play as it was going along. We didn't have it screened in our truck gate at that time. We would now if we were working there now. But
isn't it interesting just how the technology, like kids that that weren't born at that time, they don't know. You couldn't just check your phone and see what was happening.
Yeah,
you had to be near a TV. You had to have someone relaying information. And yeah, just that was interesting that you said that, and just interesting about being a security guard at that time. Wow.
Yeah, we had a job to do, but I did feel kind of, speaking for myself, I felt a little bit bad because I honestly felt like I was harassing everybody. But it was our job to harass everybody, and it was very uncomfortable because I'm not like a bully by nature, and I don't like to harass people like just out of nowhere. It was very uncomfortable. I felt like I didn't feel safe while I was there. We didn't know what was going to happen, and like at that time, we didn't know if there was going to be more planes like going to the Chicago or
different cities,
cities where there are other big monuments at.
Yeah.
Detroit, Flint. We didn't know what was going to happen. So as a security officer, and I'm sure everybody else that was a security officer that day anywhere in the country probably had to go through the same kind of procedures. It was, on my part, it was tough because I don't like to harass people.
Yeah, that's stuff like Randy was saying. If that happened today in today's society with all the technology and Twitter and Instagram and all the social media, you can plug in the very second something's happening. It was a very different experience back then with, like you said, you're having to get this news secondhand, not even be able to watch it on the news or watch it being broadcast anywhere. You're like, what was going through your mind? Like when somebody comes and tells you that planes flew into the World Trade Center, like what's the first thing that's going through your mind?
When the first one hit, I didn't have a feeling. The first one, I just figured it was an accident. There'd be some people dying. I mean, it was unfortunate. The second one, though, when I got note of the second one hitting, that's when I kind of felt a little uneasy, because anybody with a half a brain knows when that second plane hit that it's a terrorist attack. And then after the Washington, D.C. and Pennsylvania incident, you didn't know if this was going to go on all day or where they were heading. You just didn't know.
Yeah.
Total confusion and a very, very tough day.
Yeah, man, it was a scary day. Randy, I think it's interesting our three different perspectives. So I'd like you to go second because I think the events of how the events played out that day kind of really correlates with our three different experiences. With you being just someone who's at work getting the news secondhand from someone else. And I think Randy's going to be able to tell a story of working for a news channel and kind of getting that information sort of before it got to you or us, right? And how things were going. So Randy, what was your experience that day?
Yeah. So at the time I was working at WXYZ Channel 7 in Detroit, and I was actually on vacation, and it was kind of a weird thing. So September 10th, I'm on vacation, and I'm in Pennsylvania, and I had one more day of vacation left. So I was off on the 11th, the next day, right? And I was like, okay, I'm with my best friend. I'm like, hey, do we want to go? You want to go to D.C. for the day or go to New York for the day and then drive home? And we were making that decision whether we were going to go to D.C. or New York, not knowing anything was going to happen, and we were like, yeah, let's just drive home. So we'll have some day to rest. So we drove home, drove right through Pennsylvania, right through Shanksville, and I get home and I wake up the next morning and I'm never up in the morning, which is the weirdest thing, right? So I'm never up in the morning because I work second shift, we're 3 to midnight. So I was like, whatever. And I wake up and then the TV's on and I'm looking at this plane in the building and I'm like, whoa, and that was kind of weird. And I actually was watching as the second plane hit, when that came on, I was like, I'm getting chills right now just thinking about that moment. And I was like, oh my God, and anger. I can't tell you the anger I felt right away, and I'm thinking, okay, work's going to call me in, everything's going to happen. So I'm calling work and they're so busy, right? I mean, you're talking about Detroit. Detroit has once they started figuring out it was a terrorist attack, Detroit is the second largest Muslim population outside of the Middle East in the whole world, right? And so that was a big deal then. And, I remember being angry and calling my dad. I never called my dad. Maybe it was like a protection thing. I don't know why, but I called my dad and like, dude, what's happening here? But that was just it. But the anger, I remember literally punching my steering wheel as I'm driving because I was so mad at what happened. And so my story really begins on the next day, right? So they didn't call me in the first day just because they were so busy, right? And so I drive to work the next day, and my job the next day at the news station, they called everybody in that day. Everybody worked that day. They said, Randy, your job is to drive around Detroit and wait for retaliation attacks against Muslim population in Detroit. We think they're coming. There was police reports. There was all kinds of reports. So they had me just driving randomly to any police call around Detroit, thinking that somebody was going to retaliate against a Middle Eastern family or a church or a mosque, something like that in Detroit. So that was my job on the next day, and that was bewildering, and it was so quiet on September 12th, the next day in Detroit. Nobody was working. No, the streets were empty. Like it was definitely bizarre. It was surreal, actually, just to get that, and to see that, and to hear all the reports of what was happening that were false and not, okay, they're shutting the border down. This is happening. All kinds of crazy things just coming in. Oh, we heard shots fired in Dearborn. Go, Randy, go. And it would be nothing. But people were just so on edge that we were moving around everywhere trying to look for stories and what was next. Like you said, the confusion, even for a news station, just trying to cover everything, right? And the fact that, I was low man on the totem pole, so I'm driving around looking for attacks, right? Everybody else is at the stations and doing stuff. And so that's just where it was, man. That's where we didn't know what the next thing was going to be. Were they going to blow up the tunnel to Canada? Were they going to do, anything like that? Nobody knew. So.
How did you feel about your own safety? Like when you were put on these missions out there?
You know what? Never worried about it. It's funny. It's funny. Like when you're working and I don't know. You just don't think. I think you think you got a job to do. You got a job to do. And honestly, it was so vacant out there, and there was nobody on the streets. I didn't feel threatened. Maybe if I would have got to a situation, but there was no mass panic. It was funny. There was mass confusion, but there was no mass panic or anything like that. And there was no really bad events that I recall. I'm sure there was a few. You know what I mean? But I never really felt threatened. I guess I felt vulnerable, right? Because you've been attacked, right? We've never felt that before. I think I felt vulnerable, and that's why I called my dad, really. So that's like some insight to that. But I never felt threatened. I never felt that. I didn't care anyways. I would have went in there, And I'm sure, from a soldier standpoint, I don't know what you were feeling, but I bet it's something similar.
It's similar, but a little bit different. So was that how your next, say, couple weeks, months were, busy with that kind of work, still on task, driving around trying to, cover these so-called events or covering 9/11 type or related events?
I will tell you this the next day. So after the 12th, so the next day, boy, one of the toughest, it was a life-changing experience. My job the second day is I was with my favorite reporter. His name was Ray Saya. And they say, Ray, you're going to go out. I just remember this, you're going to go out to Garden City. And there's a mom out there. Her daughter was in the Trade Center. She has no idea if she's alive or dead because this is still early. They didn't know who was alive or dead. And you're going to go talk to this mother. And I'm like, whoa, okay. And in the news, you talk to people who lose people. You do that. And so we go over to her house, me and Ray, and we don't know. We're like, wow, we got to go do this, right? And we knock on her door, and the mother, she answers the door with a giant picture of her daughter, I don't know if it was a senior picture or if it was I don't know, the giant portrait, right? She's got this giant picture of her daughter holding it, and she walks in, and she's smiling at us, and she hugs us, and she says, I know my daughter is gone. I know this. But it's going to be okay. And she hugged both of us. And I'm like, I'm tearing up, we're tearing up with the mother, but the mother's so strong and so certain that it's okay. Even though she's like, I know my daughter was in that building. I know she's not alive anymore. And turns out she wasn't alive anymore. But that was just that interview and that moment. I'll never forget that.
Man, that's got to be tough. Well, my story was, as you both know, as many of you know, I was serving in the United States Army at the time of the 9/11 attacks, stationed over in Hawaii. Now, being stationed in Hawaii, Hawaii is not a duty station, not a unit that gets deployed to a lot of active duty locations, right? Those are the Fort Drums, the Fort Braggs, the Fort Campbells, Fort Hoods of the world. They have different geographical coverages based on where the bases are in the United States. But so we're in Hawaii, and we were right in the middle, I think on day 7 of a 10-day field exercise. We're out on a field exercise doing different things. And we were doing some training at a range where we practice urban tactical stuff with like entering buildings, clearing rooms, stuff like that. And we were our job was to be the enemy, or another unit was like attacking us. So we just spent like a day and a half putting up concertina wire and defenses around this whole little Mount City that we were at. And normal day, getting ready to get up, go to work, and ready to, I think we were supposed to do our actual operation that night. Get up for breakfast at like 5 a.m., go down, eat breakfast, come back from eating chow and go back to like the little rooms we were kind of camping in, we were staying in, sleeping, shaving, getting dressed, packing up our stuff. And back then we didn't have, obviously we didn't have smartphones. We didn't have, we had, some of the guys had like radios, kind of like Walkman type radios. We could AM, FM radios. We can listen to news stations. So we're just sitting there after breakfast, and all of a sudden our squad leader comes up, like, "Hey, everybody, get down to this building, this room right now." I'm like, "Okay, what's going on?" So we all gathered. There was a couple different units there, and this captain walks in. We had never seen him before. Very nicely, clean everything. He obviously hadn't been in the field. So he sits us down and he's like, "Hey, we don't know much of anything right now. We know that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center. That's really all we know. We don't have any other information," right? So we're like all kind of in shock. But like you said, Ray, if our first thoughts were like, "Oh wow, this has been an accident," right? A plane accidentally flew into the World Trade Center. So we're like, we immediately go back to our bunk areas where we were sleeping at. Everybody busted. If you have a radio, you got it out. You put your headphones in, and you turn to a news station and start listening to the news. And then obviously it was like almost 15 minutes later, the second plane hit the South Tower. And we're like, "Oh shit, like this is not an accident. This is not something that was an accident. There's no way accidentally two planes fly into each tower of the World Trade Center." And it obviously was before the news of, the plane, coming down the Pentagon in Pennsylvania. So we're like, our minds start racing. Obviously, as a soldier, your mind starts to think about these things. Like this is these moments when you join the military. You're like, okay, now I'm going to the shit, right? Like you want to, right? When you hear stuff like that. So we get called back down to the same room, same captain's there, and this time it's serious. Everybody's got a much more serious look on their face. Much more surreal kind of vibe in the room. And the captain's like, "Okay, well, if you have a radio, you've probably heard by now that the second plane has hit the South Tower of the World Trade Center, and that we now know that this is a terrorist attack on the United States. So everybody go pack up your shit. We got to clean up all this concertina wire and get the hell out of here and get back to base." So that's what we did. For the next hour and a half, we cleaned up everything that we had just did, spent a day and a half doing, packed up our stuff, and I had never seen, it's kind of relatable to sports in a way where, like, you're getting ready for a big game, right? And your coach, like Coach Ufinger, just gave you this incredible locker room speech, or like you're down 3 points at halftime or something, and you know what I mean? You're getting ready to go. You're focused. You become ultra focused. And all of a sudden your mindset goes to like, okay, let's go get these fuckers. Right? This is what we're here for. They attacked us. We're ready to go. Put me on a plane right now. Put a gun in my hand. Put me on a plane. Let's go.
So you guys were angry too then when it settled in and stuff?
It was anger. But when you're in the military, you don't really... It's not really anger, like I'm so pissed off, right? It's you have like a brief moment of anger, and then it switches to I'm coming to put a bullet in your head, right? Like I'm coming to get you. Like whoever's responsible for this, you just fucked up.
Yeah, now it's a mission,
it's
right?
that kind of thing.
Yeah, now it's a mission.
Personal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So we pack everything up. We get on a deuce and a half trucks back to the base. Now, this range is only a 15-minute drive from our base, right? It's one road. It's kind of like a backcountry road. It's on the base. The base is right next to a mountain range, so it's like this private road. Nobody ever is really on it because it's just mainly used for, civilians drive on it too, but all our ranges are off this main road. So it's a 15-minute drive back to base. It took us over 3 hours to get back on base. 3 hours. We're sitting parked in the road. We're sitting in the back of deuce and a half trucks, just like itching, antsy, right? And we got to wait like 3 hours because they had shut the base down. They completely shut the base down. Any civilian that was working on the base, because we had civilians that worked at like the stores and the gas stations and the fast food places or whatever, they all had to go. You didn't have a military ID, you had to go. And only military family have military IDs. You got to go. And anybody coming in, like you said, Ray, everybody got searched. Every vehicle was stopped, searched, ID checked. And I'm not talking searched. I'm talking, fully loaded weapons, mirrors going around every vehicle, looking in every crevice, checking every vehicle. So we finally get back on base, get back to our unit. Now, mind you, we just came out of the field, so a lot of us are, dirty. We hadn't showered in 7 days. So we had a formation. Our platoon or our leadership tells us, okay, single guys, get upstairs, get showered, wash your shit, pack your shit back up, and get ready to go. Married guys, go home, get a shower, pack your stuff, kiss your wives, and get back here, right? So we kind of went into this period of lockdown where we did like 3 days on, 2 days off, where even the married guys had to come and stay with us single guys in the barracks because we were on call. Like for 3 days, you just sat there and we're ready to go. And we didn't just sit there. We were doing like drills, going over procedures and things we might run into. And, we weren't just sitting on our asses. We were preparing. So that's kind of how it went for the next couple weeks. And then we got assigned to do guard duty for Tripler Army Hospital on the island, the military hospital on the island. So we went to the hospital and did kind of exactly that. We stayed there. We slept there. We pulled 8-hour shifts guarding the hospital. Every vehicle that came in, we stopped them. They had the whole the the serpentine barricades that people had to drive through. We stopped every car, check ID, check the vehicle. We have fully loaded weapons.
At a hospital.
At a hospital, at the military hospital on the island, right? Tripler Army Hospital is, if you ever seen the movie The Pearl Harbor, it's a pink hospital. It's painted pink. So that hospital in Pearl Harbor that is like getting shot up there, all the nurses work at and stuff, that's Tripler Army Hospital. So we guarded that for a while and then eventually moved on to guarding another housing unit there. It's like this huge military housing built inside of like a big crater. But we did that for a long time. We pulled guard duty. And like I said, Hawaii, we don't get shipped off just because the Middle East is not that area's responsibility.
Yeah, you're more of a South Pacific kind of
yeah. Pacific Rim, right? Hawaii is responsible for Pacific Rim. So everybody was ready to go, but that was kind of our life after that, pulling long guard duty shifts, checking cars, searching vehicles, that kind of thing. But everybody was ready to go. And it wasn't until I'd say almost a year later. And it's actually after I got out. I think it was like 6 months or so after I got out. My unit actually some people from my unit got shipped to Afghanistan.
Yeah. That's interesting stuff, man. When that happened for me, now I'm speaking for myself personally, and I'm kind of glad that I'm kind of getting this off my chest, kind of put closure on it. I haven't really told anybody this before, but I remember I would have to say it lasted at least a couple years after the terrorist attacks. So I'll say probably 2 years. I was 24 years old, young, not the most mature person ever. I had a big stereotype on anybody that was Mideastern. When we found out who did this to us, my narrow-minded way of thinking back then was, anybody that I come across that is Mideastern, they're probably related to terrorists, and I was thinking like all of them are like that, which is stupid to think. I was young, regrettable, but I did learn from it though, because I don't judge people on nationalities like that anymore, like I did Mideastern people. I'm a character guy. If you got low character, I can't do anything with you. But I was young, not making excuses or nothing, but I hate the fact that I was like that, okay? Because, look, I'm a full-blooded Mexican guy, tattoos, kind of a big guy. That doesn't mean that I work for the cartel. That doesn't mean cartel members are in my family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, yeah, that's something I just wanted to get off my chest. That's the way it was for a couple years. That was my way of thinking. That was my stereotype. It was stupid, but it's the way it was for me. But I definitely not like that anymore with any kind of people.
Yeah, and you know what? You're not the only one that had a stereotype. There was so many going on. And the fact that you were able to move past it, it's just, that's what you do. You get better. You learn, you get better, right? So, yeah, but that was it. I mean, like you said, I was driving around the Middle Eastern neighborhoods because they thought there was going to be retaliation, which, like I said, there were incidents, but nothing major. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
we were able to, get away from that, at least a lot of that hating, somewhat. Obviously, there's still a lot of hate left. But
And remember how unified our country was at that time. Everybody. Not this group versus this group like it is now. Look how unified we were then, sticking together for quite a while. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that leads us right into us as sports fans leading into, when the events of 9/11 happened, sports were shut down, right? Sports were shut down. And I think it was 6 days at the time that the Major League Baseball season was still going on, about to go into the playoffs. All sports were shut down. They halted the end of the beginning. They delayed the beginning of the Major League Baseball playoffs. Mm-hmm. I think it was the second week of the NFL season was postponed. They had debated on canceling it, but they postponed it till the end of the season. So all the week 2 games kind of got moved to the week 16 games or week 17 games. But yeah, like that was the thing at the time, like moving past the events of 9/11 and having sports being altered. Then it was like, okay, how do we feel about playing these sports again? And I mean, athletes had that, like, how do we play again? How do we do this? Is this right? Do we, at what point do we think about getting back on the field? And ultimately it proved to be a really good thing for not only the city of New York, but for the country too, because like I think you've said it before, Ray, like I've never seen the country unified as much as after the events of 9/11. And a lot of that took place at sporting events. The first, Yankees and Mets games that happened like 6 days after the attacks, the New York Giants and Jets, I think, were playing the Giants, I think, playing at the Chiefs, and I think the Jets played the Patriots. They both won their games coming back, from 9/11, and there was fanfare and patriotism and unity all around. Right?
I thought I had a good memory. Man, you just rang off every game from week 2.
He's got the whole
20 years ago.
He's got
I thought I had a good
September
memory.
schedule going on.
But yeah, I mean, I've seen clips of players talking about those moments and those thoughts about whether or not to play, and it ended up being a huge support system for the country and the city of New York to come back and get on the field and bond and unify for something like sporting events.
Yeah, sports has always been a thing that's brought us together, and that the 9/11 stuff, the images of that, like I say, hair-raising moments. I got about 4 of those since you guys have been talking, and just the visuals, right? It doesn't matter what side of the alley you're at, whatever, to see George Bush out there throwing the first pitch or whatever it might have been in Yankee Stadium, right? Yeah. That was life-changing stuff at the time. You know
He
what
threw
I mean?
that pitch right down the middle.
I know.
That was the best thing he ever did in his presidency. Throw that strike.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that in a second, I think. but even that, right? And for a guy who hated Bush, right? To see that brought us together. That brought us that unity, you know. And I remember, if I can tell you my sports story, that it was, I think it was the first Monday Night Football game after all that had happened. There had been some other games, you know, but the first Monday Night Football game was the Lions and Rams, and it was in the Silverdome, and I was working it. Okay, so we're at Channel 7, and we want to talk about the security and stuff, right? So we go down there, and it's the first game, and it used to be you walk in, you flash a press pass, you're in, right? Boom, you're in. You're on the sideline, you're in the locker room, wherever you want to be. No big deal. It was so on lockdown. It felt like you were going to a president, you know, like it was Secret Service type stuff. Yeah. We got there, we had all of our gear. We had to set all of our gear down and walk away from it. And then they brought in the bomb sniffing dogs, you know, for the media, right? This is what they're doing just for the media. And the bomb sniffing dogs had to check all your gear, all your bags, all your tripods. They make you turn your camera on to make sure it's not an explosive device, right? So you have to literally fire it up and make sure it wasn't a hidden bomb. And just the security on that was insane. But the game went off without a hitch. You know, it was a big deal, and it was quite. I remember they were playing the Rams, and it was, you know, Marshall Faulk. It was that Warner team. Those
greatest
guys,
show on turf.
Oh my God! Can I tell you something about that team? Not 9/11 related. I've never felt so many physically gifted specimens. Like my job was to shoot on their sideline, and like usually you get in an NFL sideline or in a locker room, and there's a bunch of fat dudes, right? And some guys that are in really great shape. But there's a lot of fat dudes, defensive line. Even their defensive linemen and offensive linemen seemed like they were all cut. I'm like, what are they doing with these guys here? They're in shape. Okay, that's just a side note. But I just remember that experience, you know, with the bomb-sniffing dogs and the security guards with the machine guns. Yeah, it was crazy.
That's the way it had to be for a while.
Yeah.
Let me see. As far as sports go back then, I can understand, you know, that they would be on lockdown for a week or two. But like yourself, Dan, I'm kind of glad that, you know, our sports kind of brought us back together. My sporting memories from back then, I can't name all the games from week 2 like you did, Dan, but I remember, let me see, it was the World Series. Now, I'm fast forwarding probably about a month and a half or whatever, because I think that series went on through like mid-November because baseball had to resume again. And I remember Rudy Giuliani at the time was the mayor of New York. Didn't have the issues that he has now, for heaven's sakes. But everything just felt, being a Yankee fan, okay, I'm kind of selfishly talking here. You know, it just, the Yankees in the World Series coming after 9/11, all the police and the fire department, you know, and all the military that's at the World Series, and George Bush, you know, wearing a New York hat. And I remember the Diamondbacks. They won game 1 and 2 at home. Then the Yankees won game 3. And I remember games 4 and 5 at Yankee Stadium. I remember Jeter hit a go-ahead home run. It was the Korean sidearm pitcher. I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
But it looked like that series was going to be over, and then New York just crawling back, walk-off home run, go-ahead home run. And then game 7, it just looked like it was all storybook here, like stuff you just can't write. Game 7 in Arizona, okay? Curt Schilling was on the bump for Arizona. And I want to say Rocket started game 7 for New York. I'm not 100% on that, but I think he was. 1-1 ball game. Top of the 9th. Alfonso Soriano hit a solo home run. Storybook ending, okay? That series is over because Mariano Rivera, as he's trotting around the bases, they show on another screen Rivera loosening up, taking off the coat.
Game over.
Yep. And then when Curt Schilling went to the dugout, when they came back from commercial, they said this was Curt Schilling during commercial. He was sitting in the dugout, his hand over his head. He looked at the screen. When they showed Rivera getting up, he just did that. Because when Rivera goes in the game at that time, the game is over.
Nine
cut
times out of 10,
fastballs,
it's automatic.
9 out of 10 times. That cut fastball every single time. You know it's coming, can't hit it. And then the diamond. I lived in Arizona still. Arizona Diamond. They came back, and Luis Gonzalez hit that little bloop single. And
did they have Mark Grace at that time?
Yes.
He left
yes,
the
they
Cubs?
had Mark Grace.
Yeah,
Yep. And
big Grace guy.
yeah, that didn't end like I want it to end for New York. That's my sports memory. And I have another sports memory. 2 days. No, I'll take that back. Yeah. 2 days after the planes hit on Thursday night SmackDown, Vince McMahon, got in the middle of the ring and talked about 9/11. It's kind of heartfelt. It wasn't a wrestling angle. He was just talking from the heart, talking about the terrorist attacks, talking about it. We're not going to let them defeat us. We're all in this together. Kind of heartfelt. Got a nice ovation. So I remember that. And now that we're on a wrestling topic, there's one of my favorite divas, Zelina Vega. She wrestles now. Her father was in one of the towers when he was killed. So, but those are my sports memories on that day. Now, Pete Rose also broke Ty Cobb's record in 1985 on September 11th, just to have some added September 11th flavor. Pete Rose broke the record, Ty Cobb's record, on September 11th, 1985. So that would be 36 years ago today.
I think I remember. I think he tied it against the Cubs at Wrigley. I think, and then the next day or a couple of days later, he tied
it. He tied it, and then let me see. The next day in Chicago, Lee Smith was on the mound, and the whole crowd got up at Wrigley thinking this could be it. Yep. Lee Smith struck Pete Rose out. And Wrigley's booing Lee Smith.
Hey, Lee Smith was a baller back in the day.
Yeah.
Maybe not Soriano, but Soriano before Soriano for a year or two. Not a whole career. But I loved him.
But you guys are right, though, man. Sports does bring us together, man. And
and in those moments, there were moments during games where, that was exemplified, with, I can remember, like, from George W. throwing out the first pitch, or the first Rangers game after 9/11. They had the police and fire department teams come out on the ice, and they kind of made two lines where the players come in, and as they introduce, and there was one of the firemen that their captain was still lost, like he was in the building. He was missing. He was part of the, first responding group to 9/11. And he came out with his helmet on, and to the front of the helmet, he had a picture of his captain taped to it. And the guy's like, I remember seeing an interview, and the guy's like, I'm just gonna go over. And Mark Messier came out, and he never wore a helmet. Like when he came out for introductions, he's like, Mark Messier doesn't have a helmet on. I'm just gonna go skate over to him and see if we're on my helmet. And he skates over to Mark Messier, taps him on the shoulder, takes his helmet off, and kind of tells him in his ear, like, hey, blah, blah, blah. And Mark Messier is like, hell yeah. And he takes his helmet and puts the helmet on, and he's sporting this fireman's helmet with their captain's picture on it. Moments like that. And I think it was a player named Joe Andruzzi, who's a lineman for the Patriots. That first game back when they were playing the Jets, his two brothers and father were firemen. So, it really hit home with him. So he comes out, he's in the tunnel getting ready to be introduced, and he sees these like two American flags just taped to the walls. And he's like, he just grabs them off the walls and comes running out of the tunnel waving these American flags. And, it's like those kind of moments that, sports really helped us almost, kind of to start the healing process, but kind of take our mind off things for a couple hours that day during that game, to come together as a society and to enjoy sports. Like, sports has over time and time again been this force of unity. It's the one thing that people, whether you're debating things or whether you're rooting for your favorite team, it unifies a lot of people. And in those moments after a tragedy like 9/11, I couldn't have imagined that time after without sports. It would have been a tragedy in itself not to have sports after that tragedy.
I'm going to ask both you guys this. If that were to happen, what happened on September 11th, 2001, say that never happened. If that were to happen today in 2021, what do you think life would be like for, let's say, 5 months, 6 months, or a year afterwards? Would there be no sports? Because, the rules are kind of different now with the mandates and all that. How would it be now, do you think, if something unfortunate like that were to happen in today, today's world?
I don't think it would be any different. I mean, it would be different on social media. It would sure be, more visible in everybody's eyes today because of social media. But the way everybody reacted and the way things progressed afterwards, I can't really say I think things would be any different. I think there would be that time of, okay, we're not going to play, we're going to deal with this. But then, I don't know, I think things would happen in a very similar way. We'd be like, oh, we got to get back to sports and, and I think things would be somewhat the same.
It seems like to me today with social media, like you said, if that were to happen today, I'm not sure we would all unite as Americans because the left is going to be blaming it on the right. Now the right's going to be blaming it on the left. He caused it. President Joe Biden, it's his fault and all that. Because people see that on social media all the time and they listen to all this crap. When you see it and hear it so much, some people tend to believe it. I just think there'd be a lot of unnecessary finger pointing now because of the technology and all the, everybody has a voice on social media now, and people say the most ignorant stuff. He would be blaming that group of people. That group of people would be blaming that group of people.
I do kind of agree with you. I do see that point where, especially on social media, there would be a lot more backlash and more opinions from fans and people because they have access to social media. Back then they didn't have that input from the general population, right? Like I remember when the New York Giants, their first game back, they were as a team trying to decide whether to play or not. And a fan just had the idea to call in to the New York Giants and leave a message with Ernie Accorsi, the GM of the Giants at the time, and just say, hey, look, like I'm alive. I get to enjoy my life because I get to come watch you guys play. So play. I hope you play. Right? And it was a lot more detailed than that. I'm cutting it way short because I can't quote him, but he listened to that voicemail and he was like, he kind of made a decision and he left it to the coach, John Fossil. I'll leave it up to you whether you want to play this for the guys. And he played it for the guys, and everybody was like, hell yeah, we're playing.
I got to say, I'm glad we got to this topic, because we've been talking about 9/11 and those moments, right? Those moments that made a difference for us. But when we look back, we're 20 years now, and the world has changed so much. And I think, Ray, it would be different. I think it would be different. And I think that 9/11 actually helped make it different in a bad way. We had those moments of togetherness, right? And and I'm glad we talked about them because we don't want to forget those. But it was shortly after that where a lot of this distrust in government and stuff started coming up. You had people, they went into Afghanistan, they did that, but then all of a sudden we turned into Iraq. Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11, and there was a big majority of the country that was screaming that. I was on the front lines protesting that war because there was no need to go to Iraq. We were trying to fight a war and weapons of mass destruction and all this stuff that never were there, which started turning people against, it was our Vietnam or whatever you might want to call it that started turning us against the government. And then it started dividing us. Oh, you don't like the soldiers? No, I'm not saying that. Oh, you hate the government? We hate the government now too. And now you got this giant division that's been building for 20 years. Okay, to the point now where we can't sit down and tackle a pandemic because we don't trust the government. We can't sit down and agree that this is a virus that's killing everybody. Let's stop it. We can't even do that. I think we'd be so much different now because everything we do is questioned. Like literally, you have people wishing the presidents would be shot, or killed. Like that's not American United. You know what I mean? Yeah. We are so divisive right now. And I think it started, a lot of the seeds go back to 9/11, although we were cohesive for a few months. After that, we splintered off into two big groups. And I just think the world is so much different now. And there would be, sports would still, sports played a part in healing COVID too, getting back to normal a little bit.
Yeah.
But we're just so divided now that no matter what action, you look at what's happening in Afghanistan now, just pulling the troops out of Afghanistan, right? 20 years later, okay, half the people say, okay, we need to pull him out. Half the people go, oh, the president's absolutely terrible for pulling him out. We're divided on getting out of that war. The same war that started after 9/11 is dividing our country right now. It's insane how we've changed and got so opinionated. And yes, social media has a big factor in that. And yes, everything I think that's transpired has had a big change, you know, and has led to this where we are seriously divided. And if something like that happened, I mean, shoot, our own people attacked the Capitol building. Americans attacked the Capitol building, and we can't agree on that.
Killed people, too.
Thank you. They killed cops. And half of us, or some of us, not half, I don't want to say half of us, a lot of us are okay with that. Like, are you serious? This ain't even foreigners. This is us. We can't agree on that. That's what's on my mind.
Now, I would agree with you with the divide of the people's voice, right? Because with social media, not like in 2001 where there wasn't social media, everybody has a voice now.
Yeah.
Whether it's educated or not educated voice, everybody has a voice, and everybody puts that out there for the world to see. That kind of area, that point, I agree with you on that. You know, there would be a lot more backlash and a lot more opinions out there, but the way that just speaking in sports, as far as, you know, sports being canceled, if that were happen today, you know, obviously we're postponing or canceling games, but I think the events that happened afterwards and the decisions to continue to play sports and get back on the field and play, I think in that sole area, I think that would still happen today. I think we would still have the need and the want and the urgency to, okay, this happened, but we got to get back on the field to help unify the country again and get our minds off of things. And I think I was looking at a video where I think it was, I don't want to get his name wrong, Bernie Williams, right, for the Yankees, right,
center fielder.
He talked about his first game, those playoff games after 9/11, and he said it was the first. He came out on the field, and he doesn't ever do this. He came on the field and he looked fans in the eyes. He's like, I never did that. Like, I came out, played baseball, didn't pay attention to the crowd. He's like, I came on the field for the first time after 9/11, and I made a point to look at people, look them in their eyes, and look at as many fans as possible and just take it all in and it, you know, realize that this was bigger than just baseball, right? Mm-hmm. You were helping all these people, helping a country kind of, you know, like I said, take their minds off what just happened and start the healing process and just, you know, provide people a couple hours of, okay, we're gonna forget about what happened a week ago and enjoy baseball.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit of sports now since we got Randy here. Now, Randy's a big Cubs fan. He's a real Cubs fan.
Sorry, Randy.
Yeah, we just sold everybody.
Since he was little, he's a diehard Cubs fan.
We had one good year.
Baseball's a little more difficult than other sports come like with a Mount Rushmore. But like if you had to put Mount Rushmore for Chicago Cubs in your lifetime,
okay,
who would be four guys? And I'm sure if I asked you this a year later, you'd probably have four entirely different guys. Baseball's hard, so who's your Mount Rushmore?
Okay, and you're talking about just people that I saw play, not like
in your lifetime, Chicago Cubs, WGN.
Okay, that I saw play because I never saw Ernie Banks play.
Right.
Okay, so I'm gonna go.
He would probably count though. I mean, because everybody knows it.
Well, I'll just go.
That might be an exception.
I'll just go the ones that I watched.
Okay,
just the ones that I actually saw play a game. Right. Okay, Ryan Sandberg, number one. That's my guy till the end. Right. That's Rhino's my guy. Okay, so that's definitely number one. And then I gotta put Andre Dawson up on there.
Hawk.
I loved Andre Dawson, just everything he stood for, man. He came to play for the Cubs for a league minimum and won an MVP while making the league minimum just so he could play at Wrigley. Wow. Right, and a lot of that because of his knees. He was playing on that AstroTurf, so his knees were going bad. He was playing with the Expos.
Expos, yeah.
Yep. But anyways, he took the league minimum to come in, and he won an MVP on that. What? Okay, anyways, so the Hawks number two, and then I gotta go Mark Grace. All right, that was what you could see. I'm an 80s
you said
Cubs
you were a
guy.
Mark Grace guy.
Yeah, you could see I'm an 80s Cubs guy. Right, this is it. And then fourth, no question, hands down, all day, every day, Greg Maddox. And I know he wasn't always the Cubs. He didn't win the championships with the Cubs, but the dude was electric with the Cubs, and then came back to the Cubs. It was still great. He threw a no-hitter the second time around with the Cubs. So those are my guys. I think that was the crew.
You met Harry Carey, didn't you?
I did. That was my inspiration. He's the reason why I went into television. Like he's one of the huge reasons I wanted to be the next Harry Carey. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. That all changed. I ended up a fat cameraman, but yeah, I got to meet Harry Carey. I met him twice actually.
What was that like, man? This was at a restaurant. It wasn't one of the times at a restaurant.
Yeah, the first time I met him was at a restaurant, and
was that at his restaurant?
Yeah, Harry Carey.
Yeah, Harry Carey's,
dude.
I've been there.
It was legendary, bro. So he was legendary, right? So I go, and I'm a kid. I don't know, 10, 12. I don't know what I was, right? And my aunt was awesome. She took me to Chicago, and we go to Harry Carey's restaurant. We walk in. And dude, he's holding court. He's in it. So imagine this table, but full. Make it a full circle. It's a table about that big, and
like that consumers table at Jammin's Lounge.
Yeah, that consumers table. So he's got the Jammin's Lounge consumers table, and there's like 10 people sitting around it, and they were random people. And Harry Carey's in the middle. He's just chilling. He's holding court. Is what he's doing, right? These people weren't with him. It wasn't his crew. These are just people that sat down. There was like a fireman. There was like some other people. He might have had a couple of his friends there, right? But these were just random people. You could tell. It wasn't. They were just sitting down with him. And so I get the nerve. I walk over my little kid ass, and dude, he welcomes me right in. Hey, how you doing? Come through. Just like his whole persona. He was getting drunk. He was at the corner. He brought the little kid in. He signed the receipt from his restaurant. Hey, asked me all about the Cubs, and then I'm sure I could have sat down if he let. I'm sure. But I didn't because I was just but it was amazing. Yeah, he was just holding court, man. He was an everyday dude. He was an awesome everyday dude.
Mason, if you don't know who Harry Carey is, Google Harry Carey, Cubs seventh inning stretch, right?
Take me out to the ball game.
And then also, which I loved Will Ferrell's impressions of Harry Carey on SNL. Oh my God, uncanny, so funny, as an amazing guy. So yeah, I noticed you didn't say Sammy Sosa.
No, I love Sammy, man, but you don't. The steroids thing that got me. I'm so mixed up with that. And I know a lot of people did it, but it loses its luster, right? When you start knowing that the guys were doping, and obviously he was. He went from a skinny dude with the White Sox hitting, stealing bases and hitting 2 or 3 dingers a year to, I'm clocking 70 now, right? And just that whole thing, the whole home run race with McGuire and him and Griffey, whoever, you know what I mean? It was just.
Weren't you having fun though in '98 watching that go on, or did you use the steroids thing against him in '98? When it was actually going on?
I knew, right? I knew it was happening, but I didn't care at the time, right? And actually, that was the first time I got paid to do a sporting event. Was in '98. I literally got to go to a bar and watch to see it was McGuire against the Cubs to see if he would hit it, beat the record, right? And that was Babe Ruth. No, it was Hank Aaron's record, right? So, and so I'm literally there going, okay, let's check it out.
No,
right?
They were trying to break Roger Maris's record.
The single season,
single singing record. Yeah,
I'm getting
61.
it all twisted now. Yeah, they were trying to beat Maris's 61, right? And so, but yeah, I actually got paid. I'm like, you're gonna pay me? I had to go to the Grand Blanc Inn. Remember Grand Blanc Inn?
Oh yeah,
yeah. They're like, I'm like, you're gonna pay me to go watch the game and get reaction from fans? I'm like, okay. Well, I sat at the bar eating food and watching the game. It was pretty sweet.
How do you sign up for that gig?
Dude, seriously, right?
That's what I was just getting.
Sometimes in news, you get to do the terrible things, but once in a while, you get the awesome things. Whenever they sent me to a sporting event, I'm like, hell yeah, let's go, right? Oh, you gotta go get post game from the Pistons. Oh shucks, I get to sit behind the bench and wait till the game's over and go in the locker room. Wow, that was awesome, right? But then the other times you're like, okay, there's 3 rapes and 2 murders down the road. You gotta go cover those. Well, a house fire too. That was terrible. But the days you got to do sports were like, yes. So yeah, but I don't even know where I'm going now. But yeah, the steroids, right? So I just can't do it, man. I can't put those guys on that same pedestal. I just can't do it,
Yeah.
And even I love football players. Some of my favorite football players, when you find out, I'm just like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel right.
I feel the same way. It takes a lot of luster off of, Barry Bonds' career and Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa and that whole season and, some of these great pitchers that were great for a long time. And then you hear about steroids and then it's like, Yeah, you have to put an asterisk by it, because unless every single player on the field is allowed to take steroids, then there's got to be, right? Because you're doing something illegal, you're doing something everybody else is doing, and everybody talks about, the pitchers with substances and juiced balls and all this kind of stuff and all the things that they do to slow it down. And I don't know, when you hear about a player doping, it's like you have to put it loses luster, like you said, and it just takes away. Everybody should be celebrating Barry Bonds' home runs if they were hit the right way.
Yeah.
Unjuiced, all natural, organic home runs, so to speak. Yeah, but when doping, it just takes a lot of the luster off of it.
I got some Cub memories. I'm not a Cubs fan like you are. Got a few Cubs things that come to mind since we're on the subject of the Chicago Cubs. My favorite memory is probably the '98 season. I enjoyed that was cool at the time it was happening. I agree with a lot of what you guys said about the steroids and the corrupt stuff and all that. I don't know. Maybe I sweep that under the rug. I don't know. I'm not saying that's right, but anyways, that comes to mind because that was a great, great summer. Phil Botzios and I went to Tiger Stadium. It was June of '98. It was the day that Sosa broke Tris Speaker.
Yeah.
The record for home runs in a month. The record was 18, and he hit his 19th home run of the month at Tiger Stadium. He ended up with 20 on the month.
I was at that game.
Were you?
I was at that game, yep.
Botzios and I were there.
Yep, pretty sweet.
My other memory, obviously I'm old school. I love my old school stuff. With the Cubs being on WGN for, all their games on, they were different because they had the ivy in the outfield, which is, traditional.
No night games.
No night games. No night. You get home from school and the Cubs are on. You know what I mean?
For a long time, yeah.
That is I loved it.
All over the country they were on, and that's how I got
all
hooked.
over the country that were on. And, I hold guys like you mentioned earlier, Ryan Sandberg, Mark Grace, Leon Bull Durham,
Yep.
the Penguin, Ronnie Say, Sean Dunston, the Sarge, Gary Matthews, Hawk, Andre Dawson,
Keith Moreland,
Jody Davis,
Rick
Sutcliffe, Lee Smith. I used to watch all those Cubs games when I was little, man, in the 80s. And those Cubby teams, I'm surprised that I'm not a Cubs fan because I've literally watched 5,000 of their games on TV.
That's it. That's how it happens.
And that goes back to like the early to mid 80s, walking up to 7-Eleven and getting the Slurpee with the baseball coins on the bottom, the kind where when you turn them in the sun, it's a different player. Those are my memories of the Chicago Cubs. So, and they almost played the Tigers in the World Series in '84. The Padres beat the Cubbies in the championship.
We were up
series.
2-0 on the Padres and blew it. I know. I was thinking Steve Garvey. What the heck? What? It would have been Tigers Cubs in '84. That would have been a battle, man.
Oh yeah, yeah. But yep, those are my Cubs memories, and that's about all I got for the Cubbies.
The Slurpee coins.
Yeah, the Slurpee coins.
Next level, awesome.
Now, are we doing a Mason segment today?
Mason, you got something for us today? You got a Mason moment? Mason?
Not really, no.
Not really. He's not feeling well today. He's complaining of some stomach problems, so we'll let him slide today. Although, you got nothing? You can't come with something on the fly?
No, it doesn't work like that.
Okay, I'll do the Mason segment today. I'll come up with something. Okay, we're going to stick to baseball here. Chicago Cubs. Let me see. We'll take someone like. Okay, they won the World Series in what, 2016?
16, yep.
2016, yep. What year was the Bartman incident? Was that?
That was
2003.
Yep,
2003.
2003. Moises Alou, that crew, yep.
Now the Cubs were quote unquote cursed for. Do you believe in curses, like the black cat and all that?
No, step up your game. If you're buying into a curse, you're not going to win. You know what I mean? So just, you got to get rid of all that stuff and go with what you know.
Yeah, I believe in karma, but I don't believe in curses.
That's a great way to put it.
I think a curse is an excuse to cover up the fact that you suck.
Yes, for 108 years.
Like people talk about the Red Sox, getting rid of Babe Ruth, and then all of a sudden they're cursed for the next, however many decades it was. And it's just an excuse. Like you suck, and it's something to blame it on.
So the Dolphins suck in the 80s then.
What? No, the Dolphins didn't suck in the 80s.
They didn't win shit.
Mark Super Duper.
He loves Dan Marino.
They won a Super Bowl in 84. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Or went to a Super Bowl.
Went to, not won.
Went
Yeah.
to a Super Bowl.
If you ever talk football with Dan by yourself, this is what he'll say when you're talking about quarterbacks, particularly people that he likes, people that he doesn't like. The people that he likes, he'll tell you why they're great and how great they are. But when you talk about a quarterback that he does not like, he'll say, well, there's 10 other guys on the field. It ain't just him. But he doesn't say that about his own quarterbacks.
That's not you. That's so out of context.
Okay, here's my
Mason.
Mason question. The city of Chicago, big time sports town. What meant more to Chicago? Finally, 2016, breaking the curse, so to speak. That, the 85 Bears winning the Super Bowl, or Michael Jordan winning 6 titles. What meant more to Chicago?
What meant more?
Or any championship they won, whether it's Blackhawks or whatever, White Sox. What meant the most to the city of Chicago? Mike Ditka says the 85 Bears is the best thing that ever happened to the city of Chicago. That's Mike Ditka's opinion.
You know, and it's hard for me because I never lived in Chicago. I was a Cubs fan because of WGN, from afar.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what that city went through during those. You know what I mean? I know what Cubs fans went through. I do know that. I would probably say it probably was that 85 Bears, just because that was such a big event. And the Cubs are such a national team. They are Chicago, right? But there's another team in Chicago, the White Sox, right? So like the Cubs are a national brand where the Bears are Chicago, right? You know what I mean? Like
they exemplify what Chicago is. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not sure, 6 titles that Michael Jordan had, they probably got bored after a while. Like, oh, we expect this. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I would agree with maybe Dick on that, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, they expected it. I'm kind of torn on this answer. They did expect it, but they didn't love it any less, right?
Yeah. But
like not just one title, but 6 titles, and not just having titles, but that team and the persona of Michael Jordan, and that team kind of took leadership of the city, so to speak, right? Like it was the Bulls city for a long time.
But Michael Jordan it's the global icon, right? Like Michael Jordan doesn't feel like Chicago to me.
Right.
He feels like NBA great. You know what I mean? Like when I think of the Bears, right? Walter Payton feels like Chicago to me. Jim McMahon feels like Chicago to me. Richard
Dent, Mike Singletary,
Michael Jordan,
Chicago.
He belonged to the world, man, the whole world. So I don't know if that's a unique Chicago thing, and I don't know that they embrace it like that. I don't know. Maybe they do.
I will say, I think because of the Bears' success and because of the Bulls' success, the Cubs finally winning the World Series, I'm going to say that meant more to the city of Chicago, even if it was more short-term than long-term, because not only did they win a World Series, and they were kind of like the final team in that city to be good again, right? Because you had the Bears, they played well, the Bulls, the Blackhawks were doing good. Not only did they finally break the curse and win a championship, but they did get back on top, so to speak. They were good for years after that, right? It hasn't. Yeah. It's only been the last few years where they've kind of fallen back down a little bit. So I'm going to say because of the Bears and the Bulls' success, that the Cubs finally winning that World Championship, just like it had happened to Boston years before. Mm-hmm. I think that meant more to the city of Chicago than. Because, like you said, the Bulls win 1 championship. That's great. That's fine. You win 2. You win 3. You win 4, 6. It's like, yeah, we just own that now. Like
Yeah.
Then it starts to lose the meaning because you've won 6.
Yeah.
And you just, like you said, you expect it. But yeah, winning that title for the Cubs, I think that got that meant a lot to the city of Chicago.
Yeah, they won those 6 in a sissy era. Just gonna say that sissy era, but. I'm going to say, I'll also say the 85 Bears. That was a great point, though, on the 2016 Cubs,
good.
though.
Yep.
But I think, and I'm a loyal guy, I probably tend to be a little more loyal to the 85 Bears because, I mean, what a cast of characters on that team.
Seriously.
And it sucks now to know that Mongo McMichael's in bad health, with the Lou Gehrig disease and all that, man. But there was another player on that team that Dave Dawson committed suicide. I think it was like 10 years ago.
Yep,
but what a cast of characters.
Is the Fridge still alive? I think the Fridge died too, didn't he? Or
no, he's still alive.
Okay, my bad.
I think he weighs like 500 pounds.
Okay, sorry, Fridge.
I don't think he has a Super Bowl ring anymore.
Oh, he had to pawn it.
Well, if you watch that 30 for 30 on the Bears,
okay,
at the very end when they're kind of just showing Buddy Ryan and they're showing just showing every single person is doing this with their ring on except Perry. So probably
maybe he just forgot it that day,
or maybe he gave it to his grandma or something. Who knows?
Or his son,
hopefully, but I don't know. Who knows? Right?
We don't want to think the worst, but
no.
Fridge almost won the Battle Royal at WrestleMania.
Yes, he did, man.
Big John Studd threw him over.
Big John Studd, man.
All right, man. I think I covered our Mason question, the city of Chicago, and really good insight on 9/11.
Yeah,
both you guys, man. My story was okay. I was just a little more. I thought I was going to get hurt that day. I really did. But anyways,
well, since we were talking a little bit of football, let's touch on a little bit of football right now. Ray told me just yesterday, Ray said, as we all know, Ray's a genius when it comes to historical sports, right? He doesn't keep up much on.
I have a good memory bank. It's not that I'm a genius. I just remember games that I watched.
He has an era of sports that he owns, right? And nobody knows more about it.
True that.
So he told me yesterday, he's like, Dan, I'm gonna make a point to watch every minute of every Lions game this season.
I am.
You picked the wrong year.
I know.
Talk about disappointment. Yeah. So
you'll be a miserable man on Sunday.
Well, I think it's been, let me see. For me, it's been like 15 or 16 years since I've really watched the NFL. I don't remember the last time I watched like a whole regular season game. I do watch the Super Bowl, obviously. And I always like the conference championships. But I just don't watch the NFL because it's on, you turn ESPN Plus, or whatever sports station you have on all year round. They are always talking about the NFL all the time.
It's too much.
But I've been like that for a long time now. So I mean that. I did tell Dan, I said, I'm going to watch the Lions this year. And Dan said, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, maybe you can start watching Monday Night Football. I said, no, I ain't watching all that.
He said,
I'm
slow down. Baby
steps.
steps.
Oh, I'm going to watch some NFL, mainly the Lions. I'll watch the Cowboys on Thanksgiving too, because you got to watch both of those games.
And I'm not trying to call out your information here, but just to show you how bad the Lions are, can you name me one of their wide receivers?
I can. He can't.
I had a hard time with it.
No.
Okay. All right. There you go. Right there.
I don't even.
They're not even recognizable names. Like
I can't even name a player.
You can't name one player on the Lions team. Not one.
Come on.
Who's the defensive end with that African name?
I think who you're thinking of is Ansa. He's not even there anymore.
Ziggy Ansah's gone.
He hasn't been there in like 3 years.
Ziggy Ansah's gone.
I don't think any of my Michigan guys play there. That I can. I don't know these clowns, man. I don't know who they are. I'm gonna start watching them.
We're not great at wide receiver, man. Like we're going to talk about this because tomorrow Lions start their season tomorrow against the 49ers. But man, like they made a mistake letting Marvin Jones and Kenny Galladay go. Like so they have Quintez Cephas, who's like I think a third-year guy out of I want to say Wisconsin or something like that, and then a rookie Amon Ra, who a lot of people picked him as a sleeper. He's like kind of like he's a late round guy, but a lot of people have high hopes for a high ceiling kind of guy. Other than that, like
they picked up Terrell Williams, right?
I think they cut him.
Well, they cut him?
I think they cut him.
He's the only one with any kind of pedigree. And he wasn't good. He was like
I may be wrong. I could be wrong, and I'm sorry if I'm wrong. Okay. I thought they cut him. But, we traded Matthew Stafford for Jared Goff, who by all rights there should be no drop-off at the quarterback position. I think Matthew Stafford's more talented, got a lot more arm talent, makes all the throws. But Goff did take the Rams to the Super Bowl. He did go to the Super Bowl, play in the Super Bowl.
He's got more playoff wins than Matt Stafford.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. We've got a decent running game with DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams.
But do you? I don't know that they do. I think you want to believe that.
Swift has shown promise, and Williams has ran well for the Packers in the last few years. Decent running game, no receivers. Our offensive line is finally good, although Taylor Decker's out for the first couple of weeks with something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, they're going to put that rookie up against Bosa.
Who coaches the Lions?
Motor City Dan Campbell.
He just started first year.
Who?
Dan Campbell.
He was a tight end.
He used to play tight end for the Lions.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell.
Yeah. In the Mike Utley era.
Oh, he was their tight end at that time?
Yeah, he played tight end for the Lions. I think he played tight end for another team. I wasn't, maybe the Dolphins. He coached for the Dolphins. He was an interim coach for the Dolphins for half a season and went 4-0 in his interim stint with the Dolphins. He was a name. He's like a high motor, like intense kind of guy. He was. If you haven't seen it, look it up. In his first press conference, he went off and said he was.
I think I've seen that.
He was going to biting kneecaps off. And you knock us down, we're going to get up and bite your kneecaps off. But yeah, I mean, they've got. Who knows what the defense is? They've got a lot of young pieces. They're not going to be good. I think they're just in full tank mode.
I could name
next season.
From the 80s and 90s, early 2000s, I could probably name 300 players who played for the Lions.
Yep.
I don't even know. I couldn't name Goff. I forgot he was a Lion. If I would have had more time to think about it, I probably would have got his name because I knew that Stafford wasn't there.
Right.
But I was trying to think of who.
Well,
I don't even watch these guys.
I think at the best, the Lions, you got to look at it as a rebuild, right? And
totally.
I think they're doing a lot of things, getting these guys out of there to bring in the young, cheap guys, right, to see what they can build, right? You hope at their best they look like the Pistons now, right? Like where they were terrible last year, but you could see them growing, right? You could see that there's a future there, maybe. You know what I mean? That's kind of what you want to see. Like the Pistons had the second worst record in the league last year. But, dude, they were fun to watch, right? I watched those games like, okay, this guy's got promise. This guy's got promise. I could see, you know what I mean? Like, it was different. It wasn't just the terrible, I don't care, roll you out, Ben Gordon kind of crap. That, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This was something, they're building something. And I want to see that from the Lions. I don't know that we're going to see that, but I hope that's the case, that they're competitive and they're going to lose. You want them to lose so they get those better draft picks next year almost.
Yeah, and don't forget they have additional draft picks.
Yeah.
They have two additional draft picks from the Jared Goff trade. So the next 2 years, I think they have 2 first-round picks in each of the next 2 years. So, I think they're in full tank mode. They not keeping their wide receivers was just a sign. We're like, hey, we're going to be bad. We know we're going to be bad. We're going to see what we got, save some money. Get a high pick, get a couple draft picks in here. In the next couple of years, we'll do this rebuild over the next couple of years.
Yeah,
maybe it ain't a good idea to watch the Lions. Just listening to you guys, listening to you guys talk about strategy and what just listening to that is kind of sickening. Like,
welcome to being a Lions fan.
I mean, yeah, because I told you yesterday I could watch the games and I can talk about what happened in the games, but as far as like free agency and salary cap and draft, I really don't care about none of that.
You just want to see the balling out on the field.
I just want to see the actual game. Because when I talk about the Lions, I'm only talking about what I seen last Sunday. I'm not talking about all this future stuff and who's out there, who's out on the market, and we're shopping for this guy and getting this. I really don't care about all that.
Well, you know what, Ray? I think your best bet. Here's what I would say for you. Watch the first half of the 49ers game tomorrow.
Okay.
If they are just getting destroyed.
The Lions?
Yeah, if they're getting destroyed, like if you could see there's no hope there, then just watch random NFL games all year. Just watch one team every year.
Damn.
You know what I mean? But if they're competitive,
you don't have
tune back in. If they're somehow hanging with the 49ers, then you might want to keep watching.
Yeah. You don't have, there's not an association or affiliation with any other team in the NFL besides the Lions. Like there's no like kind of, Cowboys or you from Arizona, like Cardinals or like.
No, the only team.
No other attachment.
Okay, like we're all the same age, right? So we've had to endure the Lions all this time. But it's only natural to have like an adopted team because we don't have nothing to cheer for in the playoffs. I'll give you an example. I loved the 49ers when I was growing up.
Yeah.
I was a Lions fan first, but when you're a Lions fan, you got to find another team to cheer for in the playoffs because they ain't going to be there.
Joe Montana.
And I love
It was the Dolphins for me.
and I'm not a Niners fan now. Mm-hmm. I love Roger Craig, Montana Rice, and Tim McKyer, and Ronnie Lott, Tom Rath. I loved John Taylor. Loved all them guys.
Don't forget
man.
about Brent Jones.
Brent Jones. Yeah, Brent Jones. All them guys, man. I was a fan of them.
Me too, man. And I lived on Montana, so I love Joe Montana.
Dexter Carter was on that team, and Tim McDonald, Charles Haley.
Yeah.
So that was my team when I was growing up. I used to love those Montana 49er teams.
So we got to find you a backup team.
Yeah, you need.
We're gonna come up with. We got to find you.
Well,
a
I always
backup
wore.
team.
I used to wear Raider gear all the time. If I was going to adopt somebody, it'd be the Las Vegas Raiders.
At least they're more interesting, right?
Yeah.
They're
But
more interesting lines.
it's hard to watch the NFL. It's hard to watch them.
You think so?
Oh my God, it's
love
hard
it.
to watch that and the NBA. I could watch the finals and the conference finals, but oh my God, the NBA and NFL to watch a game in the middle of the season. I don't know how people do that.
I feel that way about the NBA, but I'm all in on football, whether it's a college football game or an NFL game. Like there's nothing boring to me about it.
Yeah,
I know.
One thing different about the NFL regular
That's how I feel about college.
The
I
NFL
can watch college all day.
The NFL regular season is different than the NBA regular season, right? Because you cannot half step a football game. You could go out on an NBA game and just play half-ass defense because you don't care that day.
There's 82 games in the season.
Yeah, you will get killed in the NFL if you don't come out and ball out when you're on that field. If you give it half effort, you were going to get hurt. You're gonna, in the NBA, you could just, I didn't guard him. You know what I mean? Like, and it doesn't hurt you. You know what I mean? But you will get hurt in the NFL if you ain't bringing 100% on the field every day.
Yeah. And you talk about the ratio of games, like wins to losses. Like if a team starts to get up to, 4, 5, 6 losses, you're talking about not, maybe not missing the playoffs if you keep on that pace, So it's not like an NBA season where you have 82 games and, you can lose 20 games and still make the playoffs or, still be the top seed in the conference. But
I'm going to do my best. I'm going to watch every Lions game this year.
So is that we decided the Raiders are going to be your backup team? If you watch the first half of the 49ers Lions game and the Lions are just getting blown the fuck out, you have the Monday Night Football game, Ravens Raiders. You can tune into that.
Let me answer that question for you because that's the way there's just too much the way you said that. Okay, it's already out on the surface. I'm going to watch the Lions, right? Okay, Now to answer your question, as far as the rest of the NFL, the Raiders would be the only team that if it looked like they were going to make a push for a Super Bowl, I would get behind them. I wouldn't get behind any other team that was doing good other than the Raiders. So I guess I guess that would be my next team. But the Raiders out of the rest of the NFL would be my only bandwagon team. If they were, 13-3 and look like I would be on the bandwagon again for the Raiders. I wouldn't do that for like the Cleveland Browns or the Bengals or, the Colts. If they were 16-0, I wouldn't care. Still wouldn't. The Raiders would be the only team that would make me want to watch.
Ray, you know what? I can I give you a little advice?
Yeah.
Like, you love sports growing up. You were all into it, right? You breathe that stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's different now, right? I know that. You know that. It's different now, especially when you're talking to NBA and all that stuff, right? My advice is just enjoy the athletic talent, man. It's different, right? There are no duds on these teams. Like, these teams are so low. They're not going to play defense like the bad boys. They don't do that, right? But when you see a 7-footer who can hit a crossover, spin move to the lane, and knock down a 3, it's kind of fun to watch, And so just try to enjoy it for what it is and the athletes and how the athletes have evolved and gotten better. You know what I mean? Like, there is no – like, you look at the linemen from the 80s, right? There were some everyday-looking dudes, okay?
Yeah.
You look at a lineman now, they're specimens, man. They're running 4.2s, and they're beefed up, and they're – like it's just – it's different, and it's fun to watch
There's still some fatties out there.
Yeah.
There's still some fatties out there, but difference is those fatties are running in the high 4s, low 5s now.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. It's just different. And you got to watch it for what it is, not what it was. You know what I mean? Like, Ray, that's always going to be our time. Like you know what I mean? That's always going to be our time. But sports is so enjoyable. Don't wreck it. Don't let it be wrecked because it's not the same as it used to be. Look at it for what it is.
No, I think what's bothering me is just it's on it's the saturated coverage on TV all year round. You know, and I do understand that the NFL is the top sport in America. I understand that. The Super Bowl, the biggest thing in America, but it's just constant coverage with all these stupid dirt sheet writers and idiots that Dan likes. I got to listen to these guys on SportsCenter, and they're always talking about football, even in the month of May. Nobody even cares. I know.
That's what I love about the NFL.
To me, it's like a girl that talks too much. When you're with like out on a date, like we'll say out on a date,
right?
And a girl just talks.
Don't you ever shut up.
And doesn't let you talk. That's a turnoff. I can't listen to you talk the entire time. Either let me talk or talk about something else.
Yeah.
No, as far as like watching the athletes, I marvel at the athletes, but hey, I'm taking a baby step here. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, real quick, favorite all time Detroit Lion. You can only pick one.
Oh, give me a second here. Hold on. Well, it's obviously Barry. When you break it down, it's Barry.
Okay, let's pick somebody other than Barry. That's the obvious pick. Other than Barry,
Jerry Ball, no doubt.
Okay, Dan.
Oh man. Chris Spielman.
Yeah, that's my favorite Lion too. Yep. Because I've said this before. Think about us growing up in Michigan at one time, how spoiled we were. We had, I'm talking about as far as like tough guys. We had Chris Spielman representing our football team. We had Bob Probert representing our hockey team. We had Lambeer, Mahorn, and Rodman all on one team.
Yep.
And who am I like? Gibby. We had Gibby, another tough guy.
Yeah, you want to talk about some gritty. That's Detroit right there.
Yeah, that's Detroit, man. Kind of like what you said about Chicago earlier, how they are Chicago. Talking about the Bears. Yep. Those guys that I just named from all four sports, that's Detroit. That's Michigan. That's us.
Good call on Spielman. If you gave me one more second, I would have went with Spielman. But yeah.
Okay, one offensive player and one defensive player. Spielman is my defensive player. That's his defensive player. You still haven't come up with one yet. No, you said Jerry Ball.
Yeah, Jerry Ball.
Now give me an offensive player other than Barry Sanders.
Other than Barry? Man, jeez. Offense for the Lions?
I already know who Dan's going to say.
Okay, go ahead, Dan. Go ahead. I got to think. I got to wrap this because I'm not a huge Lions guy, so go ahead.
Favorite offensive player, without going the obvious choice of Barry, I even want to Calvin. I got to go Calvin Johnson.
I knew you were going to say Megatron. My favorite offensive player, I would say before he broke his ribs, because I didn't think he was the same after he broke his ribs. I think he was scared of the ball, kind of. Herman Moore was my favorite offensive player.
Yeah. I was going to go with that. And you know why I was going to go with that? Just because I played a charity basketball game with him. And I like the dude, man. I like the dude. You know what I mean? Like, I thought he was cool. You know what I mean? But, yeah. But it's Barry. I don't care what you say. I got to pick Barry. But yeah. If I had to go, Barry. 1B, it would be. Yeah.
And I'm a huge Matthew Stafford fan. Matthew Stafford was like hands down the best quarterback in the Lions I've ever had. I don't think he got enough credit. He never got pieces put around him. He was just played on a terrible team.
He had Calvin.
But nothing else, right? Like he never had anything. They either had no run game, no defense, no offensive line. And this guy's still putting up numbers. Yeah, everybody wants to put stock in. He doesn't win a playoff. He hadn't won a playoff game. He hadn't won a playoff game. But that's one of those times where like Ray's going to get on me. Like there's 21 other guys on the field, right? That have to do a job, right?
But you look at like all right,
except for when it's your favorite quarterbacks we're talking about. Except for them.
That doesn't apply.
I mean, look what Brady turned regular wide receivers into He turned Troy Brown, who was a defensive player, into a great receiver. He had 111 catches or something one year, right? Like Stafford never did, and he was good. He's obviously the best Lions quarterback.
They weren't well coached either, you know.
Yeah,
it takes personnel, it takes coaching, right? That's the beauty of the Brady and Belichick combination is that not only did you have a guy who was a talented quarterback and able to.
All right. then look at Drew Brees, right? I mean, he turned regular guys into good players.
No,
too.
I'm not
he
disagreeing with you.
well coached.
Good quarterbacks like Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was famous for doing that.
Yes.
You know, he made
Reggie Wayne,
regular, third string wide receivers look great.
Dallas Clark was a
Aaron Rodgers has done that too in Green Bay, right? Like,
I just never saw Stafford make anybody on that team better. I think he made Calvin worse. I really do, because Calvin had to go up and get those balls. Like he had to fight to. I mean, and it's not 100% Stafford's fault, but I think he'll do okay. I think he will in LA, but he can't win the big games. He didn't take the one to the next. Calvin should have been Randy Moss times 20 because he was that good.
Yeah. And Stafford self-admittedly said that he became a better quarterback after Calvin Johnson went away, because he couldn't just heave the ball downfield to Calvin Johnson and then let him go get it. You know, he said, I didn't really have to be too accurate with the football. I could just heave it downfield, and I knew Calvin was going to go up over three guys and get the ball.
Okay, Lions again. Okay, I got another question for Mike Farr and Jim Brandstetter over here. God, you guys with this Lion stuff. God, you guys are more into this than the 9/11 stuff earlier.
You keep bringing it up.
Well, I mean, no, Dan mentioned I was going to watch the games, which is a true statement. Then we get into this Detroit Lions stuff.
All right, hit us with this. This is fun.
Now, they've only won one playoff game since 1957.
Terrible.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's 66 years. In 66 years, they've won one playoff game. They've been in the playoffs, but they've only won one game, and that was in 91. That was 30 years ago.
It's the Cowboys, right? They beat
Okay?
the Cowboys,
now,
right?
I want an objective answer here. We're going to see if you're talking with your heart or not that you accuse me of.
You said they only been in one playoff game?
No, they only won
one game, one playoff game. They beat the Cowboys in 91.
Okay.
They've been there in our lifetime, but since 57, they've only won one playoff game.
Yeah.
Now, here's my question to you. They haven't won a playoff game in 30 years. It's been 30 years now, 1991.
Yeah.
Now, you're always talking about me talking with my heart all the time. Let's see how much of a heart you got. Will the Lions win a playoff game in the next 8 years?
8 years. Man, that's a hard question. That's a hard question, because I do want to answer with my heart and say yes, but
that sounds like no.
My analytical brain is telling me no. So I'm very torn. I want it to be true, but history has not been. History doesn't tell us that they will.
Well, we don't believe in curses. I mean, we don't believe in that stuff. It's just because they suck. Remember?
Well, ask me that again at the end of the season, because we have a new coach. I firmly believe if they wouldn't have fired Jim Caldwell, that would have changed, because he was rebuilding the team.
He had his chances, though. He couldn't get it done either.
He got fired after a 10-6 season.
I agree.
Playoff appearance.
They got rid of him too early, but he managed games terribly.
That's true.
I don't think he was the guy to get him to the next level. Obviously, the next Joker that came in was not the right pick.
No.
But
I wanted them to hire Mike Vrabel, but
yeah.
Now when Wayne Fonts was on the rocks,
Wayne.
were you guys saying Wayne must go like everybody else, or did you like Wayne?
I was too young to have an opinion back then.
Yeah.
I was just enjoying football.
Yeah. I got to tell you, I want the Lions to do.
Wait a minute. He got fired in the late 90s. You're in your 20s then.
I was a teenager then.
Let me see. When did they fire him? Wasn't it like 96 or 97?
Probably, yeah.
Well,
98 maybe.
Yeah, so I was 19, 20 years old. Yeah,
he was still on that Bulls tip in the mid-90s. Of course, we didn't pay attention to what was going on in the Silverdome.
I paid attention to football, but I was I was too young to have that kind of opinion. I didn't get into coaching stuff and he's got to go till a little bit later. But
yeah, I'm not a Lions guy at all. But I think it's a shame that Detroit said every other team's been good, but the Lions, right? In our lifetime, right?
Right.
Yeah.
The Tigers have been good. The Pistons have won, and the Red Wings, of course, have won. Yeah. We need the Lions to just be competitive, man. Get in there, win a couple playoff games. I want to see that. Do I think it's happening in the next 8 years? Just like you, I got to say the analytical brain says nope.
And not only that, the Lions have had – how many other teams can you say that you've had two generational talent players and wasted their careers?
Made them leave early because you didn't do the right things right.
Not only did these teams didn't pull the Larry Fitzgerald and I'm going to die as an Arizona Cardinal. They're like, you guys, I'm out.
When nobody did that, when Barry did that, nobody did that. They played until they couldn't, right? Yep. Like, people didn't just leave the game. Now they do. Yeah. And Barry kind of was like, dude, I'm done.
Wasted the careers of two of the best in all of the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah.
Matt Millen. What do you guys think of Matt Millen?
Fuck Mac Millen.
Okay. Randy?
I'm not going to lie to you. When they hired him, I always thought giving him a shot was a good idea. So wrong. I was so wrong on that.
Well, I'm going to say this. I'll say this. Lions fans will think, when they think of Matt Millen, they just think about that Lions blunder. When I hear Matt Millen's name, that guy was a hell of a football player at Penn State and for the Niners and Raiders.
Hell of a football player. The fucking worst GM in all of football.
He's a good commentator, too, on college football. I like Matt Millen.
I don't like him on the mic. I don't like him on the mic. I don't like him I don't like Spielman on the mic. Loved him on the field. He's pretty bad.
He lost all credibility.
You don't like Spielman on the mic?
No.
What? No?
I think he's terrible.
Love him.
Really?
Yeah, I think he's terrible.
Dude, when he does,
I loved him on the field.
When he does Michigan games, he sounds like a Michigan fan. I think he's overly.
Ohio State, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think he's overly objective when he talks about the Wolverines. It sounds like he loves us. I don't know. I like his analogy. I like Dan Fouts too.
Let me know if this is why you don't like him. Like, he's not the best. He's not a super polished media guy, right? But he's real. Like, he speaks from experience and viewpoints.
But he's not entertaining. Like you have to be real and entertaining. Like, if you're going to be a player who comes in and does that, you have to be entertaining, right? John Madden is entertaining. He was in the game, and now he's an entertaining. Like he's good, right? You can't bore me. He bores me.
John Madden was the best. He was the best commentator of all time.
No doubt. And that's an everyday guy, right? Like, he sounded like an everyday guy. Boom, pow, whatever. You know what I mean? But you got it. And it was interesting. Like Spielman, he bores me, and he's he's a homer for whatever team he wants to do. And you're like, dude, call the game right. You know what I mean? And even though, he's calling Michigan games or Lions games or whatever, you're like, dude, come on. Yeah. Not good to me. And I hate Romo too. I think he's bad. He miscalls things so bad. They're all pump him up because, like, oh, he can call the play before he sees it. But
one person, I don't know who came up with that. One person said that. Everybody says that now. And it might be true.
He does do that a lot.
But you're right, Randy, from the entertainment. There's nothing about Tony Romo that entertains me whatsoever. He might be smart. Yeah. Probably would be a good coach. I'm not saying that he wouldn't, but I can't. It is hard to listen to him.
Yeah, I'm like in the Super Bowl. He's calling the Chiefs. And at some point, he says, oh, the Chiefs really got the offense working now. And I'm like, huh? I'm like, you just said
the hell game are you looking at?
Like, I'm like, what are you watching, man? He's running for his life out there. They can't complete a pass. And I'm a Chiefs fan, right? And I'm like, you're not really? Did you just say that? I'm like, I couldn't believe he's so off on so many things. But anyways, yeah.
Drew Brees made his debut on Thursday Night Football the other night, and I wasn't too impressed. We'll give him some more time. Was he
calling that game? I wasn't paying any attention. That was him?
He wasn't. Was he calling the game? Yeah, I think he was calling the game with. Was it Tirico?
Oh, yeah. All right. Mike Tirico?
Yeah, Mike
Tirico's a pro. That guy's a pro. Yeah, that guy's
fantastic. He was part of the crew there, and I wasn't really impressed with him.
Okay. You take Tirico and you take Al Michaels and that crew. I mean, those guys, when those two are on the mic, you're good. That game's going to be good.
Correction. He wasn't calling the game. It was Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth that was calling the game. Drew Brees was part of the pregame crew.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Not good.
He looked. Yeah, it looked like his first game.
It's hard, right? And he's one of the greatest quarterbers of all time. But
you guys like listening to Troy Aikman?
I like Troy Aikman.
I like Aikman. You don't like him either?
No, I don't mind him. I
like the Buck Aikman combination.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. Actually, I'll be honest with you. I don't mind those games. Buck gets on my nerves a little bit, but not much.
My favorite crew. This is back when I was a big NFL fan because I love the NFL like nothing else. I used to love Sunday night football with Joe Theismann, Paul McGuire, and was it Al Michaels the third guy?
Yeah, I think it was Michaels. Yeah,
that was my favorite crew.
Yep.
What'd you guys think of Dennis Miller on Monday Night Football?
Oh, that was terrible. That was such a bad experiment.
I understood why they did it, and I get it, but it didn't work.
It didn't work at all.
Like I say, sometimes you got to try stuff on. If it works, it works. If not, but
the new Monday Night Football crew is really good. Brian Greasy, Louis Riddick, and why am I blanking on the third name?
Brian Greasy, huh?
Yeah.
I run those ESPN crews kind of drive me nuts. But Greasy's good. Okay, I don't mind Greasy. I can't stand Riddick. I don't know. He's just too opinionated. He thinks he's on top of everything.
Louis Riddick?
Yeah.
See, I think he's one of the smartest brains in football. Right. I don't know why he doesn't have a GM gig right now.
Oh, I got to listen to him more. I think. But what I've heard from him, he just always seems like he's outspoken, like things can only be one way. And I'm like, I don't know, man. You don't have everything figured out.
No, I see him on the morning ESPN show, Get Up and some of the other morning shows he's on, and he's got great opinions, I think.
Gotcha.
All right, that's a lot of NFL we covered there.
Yeah.
I still think it's a mistake that I'm watching this because I told Dan yesterday, and then now it turns into an NFL show now. So I might not watch it.
It was fun.
We become what you despise. Always talking NFL.
Okay, Dan, you opened us. Might as well go ahead and close it. This is a great episode. This is a good episode.
This was fun. Yeah. I would like to end the show. This show was a show dedicated to 9/11 and the events that happened 20 years ago. For not only the 3,000 lives that were lost in 9/11, but all the other families and people that were affected by it. I'd like to end the show with a moment of silence for everyone affected by 9/11. So if we could just take a couple moments of silence, and we'll move on and we'll close the show. All right. 9/11, 20 years ago. I think it was a good show. Randy, thank you so much for being here.
I love this. You guys keep doing this, man. Get these voices out, and thanks for having me. This is always a blast. Thank you.
You're welcome back anytime.
I got a little did you know here about Randy. No, it's got nothing to do with the concert and all that stuff. I know that's what you think.
That's great stuff.
But Randy is the reason that I'm podcasting. I don't know if I even told you that.
You told me that. Yeah.
Randy and I one time were talking on the phone about some game from, 1993 or something. We're just talking and talking and talking. And he suggested, hey, man, you ought to get on this Anchor app and podcast this stuff, man. Start talking audio or whatever. And I kind of knew what a podcast was because I knew that Stone Cold Steve Austin had one. So I knew what one was. I was like, I can't do that, man. I'm not into electronics and know how to do stuff like that. Randy said, man, look, man, I'll help you at least get set up. You could do these audio recordings. So, what if you wouldn't have said that day? You know what I mean? I wouldn't be doing this. Yeah. Probably not.
Ray, I'm not going to lie to you, man. When I told you to do that, I wanted you to do it, and I thought you'd run with it. Did I think you'd be like this right now? No, this is killer, man. You got a good teammate here. You guys are killing it, man. You got a set now. You got to play. I'm like, what? You know what I mean? Like, I was just trying to get you to do some audio. You got the video run. You got the whole thing, man. You're on some next level, man.
Me and Dan got continuous improvements going on. There's other stuff going on. Yes. We'll tell you about when we're off the air. But
there's definitely big things in the pipe. Look for big things coming. Some big changes. Some very, very cool changes and big things happening.
I love what you guys are doing, man. Keep it up. And if I can help in any way, man, you let me know. Seriously.
We appreciate that, Randy.
Okay, we appreciate that, Randy. Go ahead, Dan.
All right. Like I say every time, hey, if you like what we do, please hit the like button, hit subscribe, get notifications when our new episodes drop. Like us on Facebook, Instagram. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
And if you don't like our show, tell an enemy. If you don't like our show.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time.